So this is my presentation on sociology of aging. Examines how social factors influence the aging process and how society views and treats elderly adults. Explores aging as social construct rather than just a biological process. Analyze how social institutions, relationships, and cultural factors shape the experience of aging. Considers how age intersects with social categories like gender, race, and socioeconomic status. Examines societal perspectives of aging. So basically this slide is talking about aging is impacted by social factors. Aging is a social construct. Aging is shaped by cultural factors. And there are a variety of perspectives on aging. Okay, so this one's going to talk about misunderstanding of aging. One hindrance to society's understanding of aging is that people rarely understand the process of aging until they reach old age themselves. As is often the case with lack of knowledge or understanding, it leads to misassumptions and stereotypes about elderly people and aging. Scholars in gerontology have learned that aging reflects not only on psychological process of growing older, but also our attitudes and beliefs about the aging process. So, aging is difficult to understand until you experience it yourself. There are many myths and assumptions about aging due to a lack of understanding. Gerontology is the study of aging, and people who study aging also look at the attitudes and beliefs about the aging process. So this is going to talk about the historical perspectives on aging. So the pre-industrial societies. Elders often held positions of respect and authority. Industrial Revolution began an decline in elder status as physical labor and productivity became valued. Post-industrial society mixed attitudes towards aging with increased longevity. Develop of retirement as social institution in the 20th century. The evolution from extend to nuclear family structures affecting elder care. Emergence of aging as distinct field of sociology inequity in the mid-20th century. So the perspective of aging this perspective on aging has changed over time. Elders have used to hold positions of authority and were highly respected. The post-industrial society now has mixed attitudes about aging. People now live longer. Retirement is not accepted and expected part of aging. Families used to care for their elders, but that has changed. This was talking about changes in age over time. So changes in aging over time. In the U.S., the experience of being elderly has changed greatly over the past century. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, many U.S. households were home to multi-generational families, and the experiences and wisdom of elderlies was respected. They offered wisdom and support to their children, and often helped raise their grandchildren. Multi-generational U.S. families began to decline after World War II. Researchers believed industrialization and modernization have contributed greatly to lowering the power, influence, and prestige the elderly once held. Healthcare has become more widely accessible, and medicine has advanced, which allows the elderly to live longer. However, elderly people are not as essential to economic survival of their families and communities as they were in the past. So, the main change in the elderlies were once highly regarded and younger generations look to them for wisdom and support. Many grandparents lived in homes with grandchildren who helped to take care for them. The elderly now have less influence and respect due to industrialization and modernization. A positive change is improved and increased access to health care, which allows people to live longer. Some families see their elders as burden because they are not able to contribute to the economic survival of the family or community. Demographic threads in aging. Global aging population. By 2050, people 65 plus will outnumber children under 5 for the first time in history, increasing life expectancy. Average U.S. life expectancy rose from 47 in 1900 to 79 in 2019. Declining birth rates contributing to aging populations in developed nations. Geographical variations in aging populations, rural and urban, and north versus south. Women typically outlive men, creating feminization of aging. So there will soon be more elderly than children for the first time. Over the past 100 years, life expectancy has gone from an average of 47 to 79. Women tend to outlive men, giving them more to say in the aging process. There are geographical differences in aging. Theoretical frameworks. Functionalism. People with better resources stay active in other roles, adjust better to old age. Disengagement theory. Withdrawing from society and social relationships, a natural part of aging. Activity theory. Activity loves and social involvement are key to this process and key to happiness. Continuity theory. The elderly make specific choices to maintain consistency and internal personality structure, beliefs, and external structures, relationships, remaining active and involved throughout their elderly years. One theory about the aging is called functionalism. It is the idea that people who have access to better resources and stay involved adjust better to the aging process. There are three functionalism. There are disengagement or withdrawing from society, active, which is essential, and continuity, which is when people choose to stay active. This next slide is just a continuation. So theoretical frameworks continued, conflict perspective. Modernization theory. The primary cause of the elderly losing power and influence in society are the parallel forces of industrialization and modernization. Age stratification theory. Age serves as a basis of social control. Different age groups will have varying access to social resources such as political and economic power. Exchange theory. We experience an increased dependence as we age and most increasingly submit to the will of others because we have fewer ways of compelling others to submit to us. A second theory of aging is conflict perspective, which is the admission of prejudice towards the elderly. There are three explanations for this bias: the loss of power due to loss of influence, increased age comes with a loss of social control and politics and the economy. Aging leads to increased dependence on younger people for help. So this is a continuation of the last slide. So Symbiotic interreactionism focus on how society is created through the day-to-day interaction. Subculture of aging theory focuses on the shared community created by the elderly when they are excluded. Selective optimization with compensation theory. Aging is a process and not an outcome, and the goals compensation are specific to the individual. Gerotransistence, the idea that as the people age, they transcend the limited views of life they held in earlier times. The elderly tend to rely on one another as community because they feel excluded. Everyone ages differently because it is a process that varies from person to person. Social construction of aging. Age is a socially constructed category rather than purely biological. Culture variations in defining elderly or old age norms, social expectations about appropriate behaviors at different ages. Age is status that often overrides other aspects of identity. Chronicle age versus functional age versus subjective age. Impact of language. Terms like senior citizen, elderly, adult carry different connotations. Aging has a social aspect. Different cultures view aging in different ways. The elderly are expected to act a certain way and follow social norms. Age becomes a part of a person's identity. Society uses words like senior citizen or elderly, but they have different meanings. The idea that age is just a number. Ageism and age discrimination. Ageism prejudice, stereotyping and discrimination based on age. Internalized ageism, when older adults accept negative stereotypes about themselves. Age discrimination in employment, healthcare, and media representation. The elderly often experience ageism. Ageism is a stereotyping or discrimination based on age. Some older adults feel negatively about themselves. There is age discrimination in the workforce and healthcare. Social institutions and aging. Family. Changing family structures. Smaller families and geographic dispersion. Grandparents increasingly responsibility for childcare. Caregiving predominantly. Female family members providing unpaid care. Sandwich generation. Adults caring for both children and aging parents. Elder abuse within family. Physical, emotional, finance exploitation. Cultural variations and fulfill responsibility in multi-generational households. Families are smaller now, so there may not be enough family members to take care of for the older family members. People having kids at an older age, so they may be caring for their children and their parents or grandparents. Some grandparents are not expected to provide childcare. Some elders are abused by family because they are seen as a burden. There are variations among cultures on who is responsible for caring for the elderly. There are fewer multi-generation households than there used to be. Social institutions and aging, work and retirement. Evolution of retirement as a social institution. Mandatory versus voluntary retirement. economic changes, pension systems, and Social Security sustainability, age discrimination in hiring, promotion, and retention, post-retirement workout of necessity or choice, changing meaning of work and leisure in later life. Because people are living longer, they now have a plan for retirement. Some elders are forced to retire due to age discrimination. This can cause many money problems. Many older people rely on Social Security to survive. Some elderly people are forced to work due to lack of support. Some elderly enjoy their retirement years, while others may suffer from health problems or need daily assistance. Social institutions and aging healthcare. Access affordable issues for older adults. Medicine. Medicaid or long-term care insurance in the U.S. Disparities in healthcare quality and access among older adults. Preventative care versus treatment models for aging populations. Access to healthcare and housing are a concern. Healthcare and proper living situations are essential for the elderly to enjoy life. Housing and living arrangements, modifications and support for remaining in one's home, retirement communities and age segregated housing, assisted living facilities, nursing homes and institutional care, and quality of life concerns. Homeless among older adults, causes and consequences of cultural and socioeconomic factors influencing living arrangement choices. Many people prefer to remain in their home. Some people move into retirement communities that provide support for the elderly. Some people remain independent while others may need assistance. Nursing homes are expensive and difficult to secure. Homelessness is a concern among the elderly. These concerns are due to the changing outlook on aging. Technology, communication, and aging. Digital divide. Disparities in technology access and literacy among older adults. Technology adoption and adaptation later in life. Social media and maintain connections with families and friends. Telehealth and remote monitoring technologies. Assistive technologies for aging in place. Ethical considerations. Privacy, autonomy. The elderly have often struggled in today's world, especially with technology. Many rely on social media to stay connected. Some healthcare is provided with technology. There are advancements in tech that help the elderly. There is a concern about a person's privacy and ability to consent as they age. Diversity and inequality in aging. Racial and ethnic differences in aging experiences and outcomes. Gender differences. Men tend to die younger, making women widows. Unique challenges and resilience. Immigration status and aging. How inequality compound over time. Not all older people have the same experience. Their experience can differ based on race and inequity. Men and women have very different experiences as they age. Many elderly face challenges and must be resilient to overcome them. Inequalities can pile up over time, creating struggles. Death, dying, and bereavement. Social construction of good death across cultures. Medicalization of death and dying in contemporary society. Hospice and palliative care moments. Advanced directives and end-life decision-making. Grief and bereavement process in later life. Death anxiety and its relationship to age and cultural factors. What does it mean to have a good death or to live a full life? There are now options to help someone end their life with the use of medication, but remains a debate. Hospice is a service that helps people when they are dying. Elderly people have to make arrangements for their death, such as a will and to select a person who will make decisions for them. The older you are, the more people you will lose and will grieve. As people age, they will experience death anxiety, and is often based on your culture. Successful aging and well-being. Rowan Huan's model, avoiding disease, maintaining function and engagement. Critiques of a successful aging, paradigms of Allardyce or cultural base. Successful subjective well-being and life satisfaction later on in life. Resilience and coping mechanisms among older adults. Spiritually and religious participation as factors in well-being. Cultural variations in divining and meaning successful aging. One way to age successfully is to avoid disease and stay active. Successful aging can be based on one's culture. Not everyone wants the same thing later on in life. Some people want to retire to a new place while others want to stay with family. A person's religion and culture impacts their views on death. Different cultures have many definitions of successful aging. Global cultural perspectives on aging. One country that will soon face serious aging crisis is China, which is on the cusp of an aging boom, a period when the elderly position will dramatically increase. By 2050, nearly 1/3 of the Chinese populations will be 60 or older, which will put a significant burden on the labor force and impact China's economic growth. In Asia, the responsibility for elder care lies firmly on the family. Western countries, the elderly are considered independent and are expected to tend their own care. The United States decisions to care for an elderly relative are often conditionally based on the promise of future returns, such as inheritance. In China, several studies have noted the attitude to filial piety, respect to one's parents and ancestors in all things, as most important virtue. While most people in the United States are reluctant to place their elderly members into out-of-home assessed care, the groups least likely to do so are Latinos, African Americans, and Asians. The elderly population in China will dramatically increase. By 2050, 1/3 of China will be 60 or older. This will put a burden on the economy. China respects elders is the most important value. Asian families are responsible for the elders. Western countries, elderly are expected to be more independent. U.S. Inheritance often influence caring for the elderly. Latinos, African Americans, and Asians are less likely to place loved ones in assisted care. Japan. Elderly people are recognized as being wise and experienced. Their cultural norms mean that many Japanese elders live with their children. China. It's seen as dishonorable to place your loved one in a care home. However, this is starting to shift as the one-child policy has led to an aging population. It is becoming more common to place elderly relatives in home and care home due to increasing pressure. India. Elderly relatives in India often remain head of the household, with the whole family living together. Grandparents help take care of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, with their parents are out at work. Elderly members of the family are also seen as wise and can provide advice. Greece. Extremely high amount of respect for its elders is Greece. This is displayed in part of the Greek culture with the value called philito, which means doing good. Children can show that when they love and respect their elders, highlighting how ingrained this is within Greek culture. Japan elderly are wise and valued. China, dishonorable to not care for loved ones, but the one-child policy is impacting that belief. India, elderly are seen as head of the household, who are wise and provide advice with childcare. Greece, elderly are highly respected and have a word for it. Emerging trends and future directions, increasing longevity and implications for life course stages. Changing retirement patterns and later life work are necessary. Technology innovations are needed for aging populations. Climate change impacts on older adults. Intergenerational programs are age-friendly communities. Shift in cultures, attitudes towards aging and elder wisdom. Aging is a part of life that we tend to put off thinking about, but it is an important part of life to plan for. It may look very different in different cultures. There have been shifts in culture attitudes toward aging and the elderly, but the hope is that the communities continue to value and support the elderly. Everyone deserves to age with respect. And here are my references.